Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me. I'm Jennifer Goldman. I own Resonance LLC, management consulting for strategic transformation, and we enjoy helping small businesses and nonprofits elevate themselves to a higher level of efficiency and effectiveness. And I have with me Dan Moore today, who is one of my favorite people on the planet. And we are going to be talking about beautiful things. As you can see around Dan, there are beautiful things. And I will tell you, I got the idea for doing this topic because I'm going to say 2 years ago, right as the pandemic started, and I had field trips coming up with my youth entrepreneurship group. The pandemic killed our field trip. So I still did one all by myself in your store so that the students would get to see what it was like and talk to you as an entrepreneur. And that video is the most beautiful video I took ever. And I realized as I had so much beauty around me, including you and your attitude, which is glorious. And I'm going to stop there because I want you to tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Hi, I'm Dan Moore. I am an interior designer, and I co-own a commercial building in Marshall, Virginia, on Main Street, 8393 West Main. And here we house luxury award-winning guest accommodations. And then I have a design shop called Domestic Aspirations, and then my design business, Daniel J. Moore Design.
So yeah, slightly busy person. So thank you. Yeah, I don't know, but thank you.
You want to buy a shop?
What's that?
Anybody want to buy a shop?
Oh, well, we can put that out. We'll tag that for sale. But I wanted to talk to you today about the importance of being surrounded by beautiful things, and not necessarily just beautiful things, but things that make you feel comfortable. This video is meant for, entrepreneurs, business leaders, nonprofit leaders, and being effective and productive is part of the day. But especially for me, and it may be true for a bunch of people, it may be true for everybody, I'm more productive and focused when I feel good about the stuff that's around me. I think you mentioned earlier, curb appeal. When you walk into the building where your office is housed, what does it look like? How does it feel when you walk in, when you enter, when you're sitting and working in your own surroundings? It's important. If the things around you or the appearance of the room and space around you don't make you feel great,
I think very practically on a business level for retail, that point about curb appeal is important. You're leading people into your store. You're enticing them to come in. You need them. There's a little bit of effort that you need from them. They got to park their car, come up and go in the door, and a lot of people, we'll talk about more than just retail situations, but a lot of people don't like shopping. And so I think for me in the showroom, right, I think for me, it's one of the reasons that I'm in design is because I love it. I don't mind looking at fabric swatches all day, but for most people, it's pretty overwhelming. So having strong curb appeal that entices people to come into the store, super important. Now, once they're in the store, I need them to stay as long as possible. It's really important for us to have a dialogue with clients that walk in off the street so that they understand what we do. It's not, we're trying to wear a lot of hats, so it's not, completely apparent up front. But there's some key things in the shop that make it nice for us to be in every day. I wanted to create an environment that I wanted to work in every day that I didn't hate, that wasn't overly stimulating, but so we paid careful attention to the music that we play, so that the sound is pleasant and you're not having to talk over it and it's not distracting. And we have, there's a fragrance in the shop, hopefully one that allowed for, the broadest appeal, something unisex, I guess.
It's not just beautiful things, you're right. It's beautiful sounds, smells.
That's right. And then the temperature too, I tend to get pretty stuffy and overheated in a shop, and that makes me want to leave because there are endless other places to go to get what we have. I mean, maybe not the more unique things, you know, and maybe not the exact kind of brand of inspiration that we're providing or hopefully providing. Um, but you know, we need them to stay in the shop, you know, in our shop. And so it it comes down to those things. Um, Sound, smell, temperature, you know, all of that. And then having things that are visually enticing. You know, being a place that people want to sit down and they don't want to leave. Was kind of on top priority. And I think, huh?
I felt that way when I was there. I don't want to leave. In fact, I think I begged you for office space while I was there. Can we just do this every day?
Yeah, I mean, it's you know, it's nice, and we have to show well because it's what we do. You know, we're representing a design business. Um, I This applies really to home too. I think we had talked about that before, and I was talking about what you want to do in a different space. So you want to do different things in a bedroom than you want to do in a dining room, than you want to do in an office, than maybe you want to do in a living area. Um, and you know, a lot of color and design can be about the energy that you're trying to create, you know, more or less calm, you know, excited. You know, it really depends on what the purpose of that space is. And so those are important things to keep in mind. You know, everyone knows about dining rooms being painted red, you know, just to entice your appetite. But there are other ways to get you excited, you know. So I mean, oftentimes you see a dining room that's pretty dramatic, and they can afford to be because you're not spending a whole lot of time in there. You know, people don't use them necessarily every day. Um, so it's like, you know, making powder rooms over the top. You know, it's like it's a tiny little space that you're not going to spend a lot of time in, so you can go kind of crazy in it. But in a bed, oh, we talked about my bedroom.
We did.
I so I realized something. You know, environment can really support what we're going through on a personal level too.
Yeah, the day might even, you know, do you want to feel the same way in the same room on a different day, depending on your mood, and how do you accommodate that?
Yeah, and I know for me, like it, sound does not seem like a necessarily obvious part of design, but I have worked with it multiple times because I've worked on some spas. I did a massage therapy office, and the thing that I drove home the hardest with them about sound was that it cannot be uh, um, accidental. You know, like put on whatever that channel is that you want for, like, you know, Zen spa, you know, but then you have to unlike the things that aren't appropriate for your brand. Like I told them, like
Oh,
there was a specific artist that I felt like when people were getting a treatment, when they heard this artist, it was going to take them out. It was going to take them somewhere else in their brain rather than inside. And so that became, you know, that became an assignment, you know, for the business owner, was to be more selective, be more intentional with your music, you know, because it's all about intent. Like, what do you intend to do with the space, and then do everything to support that. So the bedroom, I I have been going through life transition for the last 2.5 years. And it's funny, this is an aside, but I have a friend that I call that I find to be terrifying, and that I'm always like,
it's
this
not me, right?
no, no, right, not well. I mean, it would be you. I mean, I would definitely count on you to keep people away from me if I wanted them away. I would call Jen for sure. Anyway,
Going in the
but
lip.
I call this right. So I call this other friend of mine who I like to say will keep people like 10 miles away from me because she's terrifying. Anyway, I realized that, you know, even absent-mindedly, and I had said I was going to talk about feng shui a little bit. Just I think there are a lot of different methods and ideas. Like I worked for a designer in New York who uses chromotherapy and aromatherapy, and and even if you know, can't jump in with both feet on topics like that, there are practical sides. So there's a very practical side to
So
to
explain
to feng shui. What?
explain chromotherapy though.
Uh, that's color. You
Oh,
know, that falls into the category of painting your dining room red. You know, it's why you probably don't want to paint a bedroom red unless you're not trying to sleep in there. Um,
no
so,
comment.
so my room is beautiful. I love my bedroom. It's very neutral and it's full of all of these really beautiful things. But I realized the other day that I think I am outgrowing some of the artwork that I have in there because it's subliminally not doing what I needed to do. So I had these big engravings of snakes hanging over the bed,
I was waiting.
which is probably the worst. Like I liked it. It felt, I mean, it felt somehow seductive and kind of strong, but I'm like, it's also very off-putting, you know? You here, let me find, I pulled up a couple little,
Do we have visual aids?
no, but I pulled up some feng shui notes.
Okay.
And so
Show me the tarantula you told me about yesterday.
yeah, oh, right, I know. I have hand-colored paintings of spiders in there too. It just, but I find them beautiful. But I'm like, they, you know, there's a time and a place for all things. Like there's a time and a place for a room that's red, if you want a red room, you know.
I'm going to
But
argue against the time and the place for tarantulas in the house.
right. I mean, but that could go in a library, someplace that's a little bit more contemplative. Like
You
I don't,
yesterday, which
but
made that the colors of them and the
yeah.
gist of it is more somber.
That's exactly right. And I have these big pieces of art in there too that are very somber. And I am kind of attracted to somber art, but I think it's because at the time I was probably feeling very overwhelmed by certain aspects of life. And I didn't need any stimulation anywhere. I needed calm and, you know,
And I
a friend of mine, when we opened the shop, I was playing this one station all the time. And this friend of mine would walk in and he'd go, "Oh, music to kill yourself by." So,
playlist. But no, I
so
like that idea of also changing your surroundings just based on maybe where you are in life and your thought process. And like, as I say that, I just noticed out of the corner of my eye, the painting that's behind me of the flower. That's one of those paint and sip night things that I threw in here. And I have another one that's around the corner that you can't see. And what I do is literally, I just swap them. Like every season, I'm like, oh, which one do I like today? Which one feels better right now? So I have one that's more sort of New Year's like refresh, rebirth kind of thing. I have one that is more spring like, more greens and flowers. And it's so easy to swap them out. Of course, this is not high end art. This is a Jennifer Goldman original, but they're just happy, fun things that remind me of a fun night out that I had with friends. And, why can't you do that? I mean, some of it,
you,
obviously, furniture and whatnot, they're going to be fixtures. You're not going to swap them out at every mood, but
you can. I mean, and not only swapping them out, but I mean, allowing your allowing your surroundings to support your personal evolution by evolving themselves.
yeah, I mean, and it's really easy to do with accents, the artwork.
I want $50 for that minimum.
Yeah, I got a bid for 50. Who's going for 100? Anyone? I have a whole closet full too. You should see it. I see these hanging in the shop now for you.
Yes.
You're cool.
And I do, you know what? And we have some surprisingly large and bright florals out front. I mean, I'm complicated. I like a lot of different things, but I just kind of felt like that was the space I needed to be in. And what I love about it right now is it is literally a physical, tangible milestone of change. Like I'm going to change that artwork out because I am ready for it to change, you know?
I imagine how it's going to feel when you
and,
walk in and it's still sort of a surprise to you when you
right.
walk. Oh, I love it.
And so so not only is it a marker of change, but it's also going to support it. It, like back to the music, listening to more uplifting music You know, we overload ourselves with information and stimulus now on a level that is unprecedented, you know, and it can be exhausting, and especially exhausting emotionally. We don't know how it's affecting us subliminally, which I think was at the time my desire to just kind of eradicate all of the stimulus, you know, just to be able to, you know, look internally. But like all of that conversation is about something that I know, but can be applied to, like, say, an office situation. You know, what are you trying to accomplish in your home office, and what are you doing? Do you need do you need a space that allows you to focus, um, you know, and it allows you to kind of exist, you know, with your thoughts in a space that's not interrupted? Um, or do you or are you a musician and you want, you know, a space that's more inspiring and more exciting, you know?
Creative.
Uh,
One
so
of
I mean, I think it right. So it's not enough. Like I talked about this, I think, before when we spoke before, and I've talked about it with other people. It's not enough just to find things that you like. Like, yes, find a bunch of stuff that you like and put it in a pile. I mean, I don't, you know, I, I don't know if I'm actually recommending that people do that, uh, uh, but then figure out where those things go that makes sense in what you're doing in those spaces,
the
you know? Um,
Yeah, I realized a
like,
few years ago that my office needed to be a combination of things. That I needed a desk where I could focus, where I could also see outside. There's a window in front of me, so that I have natural light and things to look at that are nice and can distract me a little bit, but still pretty focused at a desk, very businesslike. And then the other side of my office, I have a comfy chair, a place where I'm developing programs and I'm thinking, and maybe I'm writing blogs and articles, and not totally creative. I'm no artist, but the more creative side of my mind needs to work. And so I need to sit in a comfy space, not at a desktop, and just have
but still in your office, still in your work environment, right?
this is all about, and you can see my orange chair behind me. It's the
I
most.
mean, and that is a luxury to have all of those spaces that you can designate. I mean, I say that because the people that I work with and my lifestyle is not average. You know, it's not it I go around associating with people that have my same mindset and that think about aesthetics in the same way I do, and it's just not the majority of people, it's not a priority. And so I totally get that. But you can still do, you know, everyone who's building a house has a pile of sticks. You know, you still make the choices what you're going to do with your pile of resources and your things. Um, you know, and making more intentional, more informed decisions about what you do with them in your home will only support, you know, an enhanced lifestyle. Um,
So if
y-
I can ask you to go back to, you started to say you were going to go to your notes about feng shui. So
oh, right.
let's say everybody just threw all the things that they love that are comfy and inspiring to them in the middle of the room. Then for feng shui purposes, what is some good advice for then what do you do with your pile? How does it go? Where does it go? How it makes things,
Okay.
and explain feng shui. What is the purpose of feng shui?
On a practical level for me, it's just a guideline for mostly spatial planning for me, but there are some aspects of it that have to do with color and have to do with symbolism. Um,
Isn't it something about, I'm talking about just basically the general meaning of it. Isn't it something about the flow of energy through your space?
right, right. I mean, yes, and that definitely plays a big part. But I mean, they get into mirror placement and, you know, and where beds are on walls compared to a door or a window. And a lot of it is just that. And by energy, that can be on a very practical level applied to how people move through a space, how you move when you're using the space, just, you know, anatomically. So in that way, sometimes it kind of falls into common sense. And so that's more where I think about it. Um, but specifically, like if you're reading a book on feng shui and an office or work environment, it's going to talk about, colors that are grounding, charcoals and blues and blacks, and it's funny if you think about an office environment, I mean, that is kind of where a lot of them fall just naturally. Um,
Well, it's
but
sort of
then,
a business suit thing, which so I think you're wearing, if I don't know about lighting and cameras, it looks like it's a charcoal suit, might be black. I've got a
oh,
name shirt on,
oh, yeah,
things that are very, I guess, businessy,
yeah,
professional. So that makes sense. It's my logo, blue and
right.
black. Brick.
Yeah, yes, that mine is my my cards are navy and gray. That's right, my business cards. I and those are like personal colors for me anyway, but that just happens to coincide with, feng shui and business and um
Glad to hear it.
but I think but also they'll talk about water, how you see aquariums in an office space sometimes. That the most of those offices did not make that choice based on feng shui, but that is definitely something that supports the theory of feng shui because it happens naturally. So office environments are often a good place for kind of a water feature of some kind, and it's because of the type of quote unquote noise that it makes.
I was going to
So
ask.
like if there's a little water feature, it's literally like white noise, right? But visually, an aquarium is white noise also. The fish floating back and forth, I think about my my parents had an aquarium for my grandmother at one point. She was having it was Alzheimer's probably. Uh, um, and that watching those fish go by very, very rhythmic, just it's like, white noise. It's just kind of a constant, is supposed to be really good for your brain. But also I think in an environment like that, it allows you time to kind of, have a moment, of peace, just to, so that your thoughts can be clearer and not so congested and
Interesting.
yeah,
I like it.
everything to kind of support whatever it is you're doing in that space.
And I don't know if you have any advice. So I'm gonna give myself away. I had an external office outside of my home for a while, and I made the office really comfy and cozy, and I loved it. But it was in a building that I did not love, and obviously I had no control over the external parts of the building. Where I had to park, where the staircase I went up in, other than I could clean it if I wanted to, but I had no control over that part of it. And so for me, part of the reason that I let it go was because I really wasn't going there. Because as comfy and cozy as I made my internal space, being there and getting to there brought me down to the point where just being in my space didn't help me. Are there any suggestions for that? These spaces you don't have control of that affect your focus and mindset for the day?
Like what you can do in those spaces.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, all of those places are going to have policy. Like I've lived in a rental before, and as long as you left it the way you found it, you could do whatever you wanted to with it. I mean, the goal was how much like a home can I make this feel, So I guess you just have to pay attention to the policy, because if the place is really strict about that kind of stuff, then, maybe then there might not be much you can do. But, you can always be more proactive about it. If everybody wants and likes people to bring them solutions rather than complaints, right? So I guess my inspiration would be to go to management, and if there's like a committee or something, volunteer to run it or be on it and say, hey, I this might not be something that you guys want to maintain, but I would love to put some flowers outside, and if I water them and maintain them, would that be okay? You know,
I like it. That's
just
a good idea.
right. Because it'll enhance the experience for everyone else, and they may just not want to do it because they don't want to take the time to take care of it. But if you go to them and complain and you're like, this place looks like crap outside, they're not
By the way.
right. All right. You're a lot closer to your goal if you go to them and say, like, hey, You know, I'd love to go buy some flowers and some pots and things and put them outside the door to make it a little bit more welcoming. If I maintain them, would you be okay with that?
Right. And I think one of the things that I've found in the past that have to do with situations like that really is it probably bothers more people than you know. You're not the only one.
That's great.
And in those cases, you might even find you have support and help that everyone, might say, if you go get them and put them in, I'll water them, or if you buy them, I'll put them in.
Yeah, right. So it can be a conversation, and then, and what a great opportunity to get into a conversation and to collaborate with your, fellow office space sharers, your cohabitants.
So yeah.
Because you don't know what those connections are going to bring out. I mean, not that this was about that, but definitely doing something aesthetic like that would support, enhancing relationships. And I think that's really smart. I mean, yeah, think outside, think, yeah. Yeah. And if it isn't just, some people just want to complain. If that's not the place that it's coming from, right? Then then it can be a golden opportunity. Like, hey, what does everyone think about this? And would anyone want to participate? And would anyone be opposed if I went and did this? And yeah, I mean, I think that's great.
Well, I love it. And thank you. I think we'll wrap up for now, but I love that you brought, when I started and approached you about this topic, it was basically about the visualization. And I love that you brought in, sounds and smells into the conversation as well, because that does have a lot to do with your mindset. I know when I want to be extra productive or I'm feeling extra energy, I need the music to come with me and keep moving me along. As long as I pick the right channel. It isn't just about the appearance of the things. And I hope to
push it. Yeah, all those things can push those things that you want to do too. Like I was thinking about that, like I might want to be in the space where I'm just kind of somber, you know what I mean? But it's not as productive. Like if I know that I'm going into the shop and I need to be energized, well, I could default to the music that I like, which is a little bit more somber, but you can push yourself, by creating that energy in the space. It can help draw you out of and draw you into the more productive space that you want to be in. There's
and I
so
love that.
through the door.
The fact that you use the word intentional several times, and I think that's great advice for everybody, is not just to plan your room and your surroundings with your mood and how you're feeling, but to be intentional about what you want that room to do for you. What do you want it to provide for you? What do you want it to open up for you? How do you want it to move you forward? In what direction? And I love that thought. So I want to close it there, if you don't mind, unless you have any last lingering thoughts that you want to get out. Otherwise, I'm going to say thank you, Dan, for taking the time today. And I love being able to look at you and your beautiful surroundings. And thank you for sharing with me.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome.